This is a story about a man and his three daughters. Now they lived in a wee house, a wee thatched house, about half a mile out of a town, on the edge of a big forest. And the man worked in the forest. He was a big strong man, and often he'd work 12 or 14-hour days, especially in the summer when the days were long. But the man was a widower and his wife had died. And his daughters loved him very much. And when he came home at night, they would make a meal for him after his hard day at work. And after the meal, he would sit down with them and he'd pull a flute or a tin whistle out of the cupboard and play a tune for them. And he would teach them all the tunes that he knew. And sometimes they would sing songs, and other times they would tell stories. And the daughters loved their daddy very much. So this is how they lived. But one night the daddy came home and he was all pale in the face. And he wasn't looking too well at all, and the daughters were worried about him. And he sat down to have his dinner and he couldn't finish his dinner. And then he turned to the girls and he says, "Listen girls," he says, "I'm very sorry, but there'll be no music tonight. I can't do any music tonight with you. I'm not feeling too well at all." He says, "I think I'll just go to bed." So the girls were a bit scared because all they had was their daddy. So he went up the stairs anyway, and he stepped up the stairs and they could hear him going up and going into the bedroom and lying down. And the three of them were downstairs and they sat around the kitchen table and they hatched a plan. He says, "Daddy's not looking too well. Maybe he's just got a terrible cold or a flu or something." And they decided, well, we'll get him something to drink. And the one daughter said to the other, "I think we should get him a lot of honey and lemons and stuff." And the other daughter says, "and a big bottle of rum." So one of the girls went into the village and she went in and she bought a big bottle of rum and she bought some lemons and she bought a big jar of honey, and then she got a bag of cloves and she brought them all back to the house and put them in a big jug. And the three of them stood there. They put the honey in, they put the lemons in, they put the rum in, and then they put the cloves in, and then they poured scalding water in, and they stirred it round and round and round and round until they had a big jug full of drink for their daddy. And the three of them went up the stairs, and they got up to the top of the stairs and they knocked on the door. No answer. No answer at all. And then they knocked again. "Daddy, wake up, Daddy." No answer. So they opened the door and the old man was lying in bed and he was snoring away. He just hadn't woken up. So they woke him up and says, "Daddy, here, we've got something for you. Try this and see if this makes you feel better." So they had a glass for him and they poured the drink out of the big jug into the glass. And the daddy sat up in the bed and he drank it back. And he emptied the whole glass. And he says, "Girl," she says, "that was a mighty drink. I think I'll have another one." So he had another one and drank it all back. And in no time at all, he drunk everything in the jug. There wasn't a drop left. And the girls from down the stairs closed the door and down the stairs with them down into the kitchen and think, "I wonder will that help him? I wonder will that help him?" But they wouldn't know until the next day. So the next day the girls were up early anyway, and they could hear noises upstairs. They could hear the footsteps and God says, "Daddy's up, Daddy's up." And one of them went up the stairs. The oldest one went up the stairs and Daddy was already coming out of the bedroom, and he was just coming out of the bedroom, and she said to him, "Did the rum do?" And then the second girl was halfway down the stairs and the daddy came down and they passed each other in the stair, and the second daughter says, "Did the rum do, Dad?" And he said nothing. And then he went into the kitchen. The youngest daughter was in the kitchen and she said, "Did the rum do, Daddy?" And he says, well, he says, as a matter of fact, he says, I'm feeling a lot better. That was whatever you put in that drink did the job nicely. He says, wouldn't that be a great tune now? Did the rum do da do da do da, did the rum do da dee, did the rum do da do da, did the rum do da dee.